If the era of chaos is over, then I'll bring new chaos to take its place. I'll seize control of this country. The new Japan will become stronger under my leadership. That's the justice that will guide me in my noble cause!
What is up, guys? DT Ninja here to give you guys my RuroKen Hokkaido Arc Chapter 29 review. Okay, guys, it's that time again to review Kenshin. Yes, okay. So, Chapter 29, yes, okay, it's called Infiltration Otaru Base. So, obviously, the Otaru Base has been found. They find the Otaru Base, and now they're going to infiltrate it. Now, what's interesting about this is that Kenshin and Konryu kind of talk to each other, and they have a plan. They have a plan. Once you find the base, you're going to lay low, fall back, and find a place to wait for me. So they're not supposed to go by themselves. However, Konryu lets, emotions get the best of him, and he goes off of those emotions. Now, he does get a plan. It's not like he just rushes in there, but he does kind of do something pretty foolish. He goes in there thinking that it's going to be, we're going to take these weapons, we're going to capture the Kenkakuheki. I'm like, okay, first of all, you don't even know what powers they have. That's really stupid. And weapons are not going to be effective because we know the Kenkakuheki is not about just their weapons. They are weapons themselves. That's what the Kenkakuheki are. That's what's interesting about these villains. They're not just, we have this huge axe. No. Their bodies, their arms, their, just everything about them, they are weapons themselves. They have actually created their bodies to, train themselves to be weapons. So that's why they're called the Kenkakuheki. But I don't think Konryu understands this because he hasn't come face to face. He did come face to face with Ono, but he didn't actually involved in a fight like Kenshin or Sano or the others. So, yeah. Anyways, it's a foolish mistake. He comes face to face with Honda, who is actually one of the members of Shimonji's group, and we finally learn a little bit about him. We get some of his unique ability. It's very interesting. The Kenkakuheki have these abilities that you can't really understand. It can't be explained just with logic, and I like it. It's different. But a lot of people would argue that they're very different from the original villains in Kenshin, where you're going off on, this is it's physics, or it's kind of like magical type thing, and some people don't like that, but I think it's interesting. It's different, but yeah, that's kind of why I like the Kenkakuheki. They are different. So we also get Kenshin in this chapter. Kenshin, we find out where he went. He actually went to save the townspeople. We get a little hint of what's happening there. And then we also get Sano and Ono's, their front. So we get a little bit of each thing. What I didn't like about this chapter, of course, we always want it to be longer, but I kind of wish that we got a little hint at where Saito is. We know he's in Sapporo, but I just want to see what's happening there, We got a experimental combat going on, warfare going on here in Otaru, but how is it different from in Sapporo? I want to see that, because Saito is a really good character. I want to see him. And I also want to see, Nagakura and Eiji as well. That was the disappointing thing about the chapter. I wish that we got more of that. But I do commend Watsuki and his wife for sticking to the story in an interesting way. We think Sano's going to use his final attack, his trump card, right? But no, they don't actually fight. There's an invitation, and that was very interesting at the end. A big twist So I gotta give it to him. That was interesting. That kept me, was like, oh my gosh, what the hell? So I really enjoyed that about the chapter. So that's pretty much my kind of summary, my feeling about the chapter, things I liked, things I didn't like. But I did notice a few things about this chapter. Actually, 16 things that I noticed in this chapter that you may or may not have known. So I want to share those with you guys. Yes. So let's go. Oh, and by the way, that intro, it's an old intro, but I love it. The color scans were provided by Chris JP20. He's an awesome guy. He colors most of my Kenshin, work. So yeah, anyways. Okay, the first thing, foot soldiers. Okay, we first see the foot soldiers carrying the cargo into the base, into Otaro. So you got Konryu, Ashitaro, Aran. They see them, right? They're like, okay, what are we going to do here? And then we see them, right? They have these black kind of outfits, almost like a ninja. These are Yaminobu. These are not Kenkakuheki. And remember, there was a pact between that old woman and Doi, one of the members of Byakuya's group. They made a pact between each other that the Kenkakuheki and Yaminobu would work together. And this is where we're seeing that. And I've mentioned this in another chapter, but it's definitely shown here. There's a lot of Yaminobu. Okay, the next thing, the cargo. The cargo is longer, it's bigger, and it seems to be weapons, right? And Aran mentions that it's probably a rifle, and he ends up being right. But that's not the interesting thing. The interesting thing is that the cargo has a seal. It has a crest on it. And what is the crest? It's Gato's crest. Yes, the Polonia crest that Gato created, that Konryu came up with and designed himself. Konryu sees it on the crate as they're carrying it, and he just goes nuts. Like, okay, something snapped in him, because he went from, like, we have this strategy to, like, okay, this is not acceptable. He gets really pissed off. He convinces Aran and Ashitaro to go through with infiltration. This is pretty big, right? He goes off of his emotions, and that is why they end up in trouble. But I found it interesting because they do have that crest there. Yeah, so next thing. Konryu is very passionate about his work as Gato. Now, I find this very interesting because Gato is not a real person. Gato is not a real person, guys. Konryu is his real name, Konryu Takeda, right? He was sent to, the prison, Kabato prison, the serious prison in here, and he was broken out of prison, right? Because of those riots by the Kenkakuheki. When he broke out of prison, when he jailbreaked, evacuation he calls it, he changed his name to Gato Ringu, and he worked for the Kenkakuheki. However, to him, he doesn't believe that he was doing anything illegal. All he was doing was selling swords. That's what he believed. He believed this, okay? Now, when he sees that crest, he feels betrayed because they stole it from him. They're using it. But to him, this is his second chance. This is what I think. As Konryu, yes, he is a scumbag. He is a scumbag merchant. You hear it in the chapter. I mean, Honda is like, don't fuck with me, you scumbag merchant. He is really pissed off at him. You just can see he's also passionate about him, that he is no good. He knows all about his past, right? But Konryu doesn't see himself as Konryu anymore. It's almost like he has taken on this persona of Gato as being his second chance. I think that actually Gato, even though it's not his real name, I feel that this is his second chance to make a difference and change. I don't think he's changed completely, but that's how I feel, because you see how he reacts in this chapter. He's not Konryu Takeda. He just feels that he is Gato, and that's what I feel. And they're giving him a bad name, right? He feels that he did nothing wrong. You see these panels where he's like, Gato Ringu, is innocent. He did nothing wrong. Selling the swords is not illegal. And technically in Otaro, he's right. He didn't do anything illegal other than work with the Kenkakuheki, right? But they stole his work. They stole his name. So he feels, now he sees them doing illegal activity with the guns and selling them to everyone. That is definitely illegal. But his name is on it. So he feels that he is a part of them still. That's why he decides to infiltrate, to take back, his name. Kind of take back, clear his name. That's kind of how it feels to me in this chapter. But I find it interesting that he actually feels that this fake name, this alias of his, is actually, something important to him. It's like a second chance. Now that he's broken out of jail, he's no longer Konryu. Even though that's his real name, he doesn't feel that way. And that's how he acts, right? Okay, the next thing. And again, Konryu goes back to his old ways. He tempts Ashitaro and Aran with money. He says, I'm going to pay you if you follow me. And this is what they do. They come up with a plan. Ashitaro rushes in as a decoy. And at the same time, Aran and Konryu run across a floating bridge where there's nobody around. So they kind of infiltrate easily because of Ashitaro, right? Everybody's focusing on Ashitaro. So they sneak into the base. They steal the weapons. However, this goes to the next part. Konryu's plan to infiltrate his base is selfish, right? It's based on the fact that, he feels betrayed, and he's kind of goading the other two into it. He needs their help to get what he wants, right? But this contradicts everything that he said about Kenshin. Kenshin rushed into the Shuei compound, the Shuei syndicate, remember? The Yakuza, and started slashing his sword. Remember, Konryu arrives and says, what are you doing? Why are you rushing in here like a sword fool? Use your brain. Here, Konryu is doing the same thing. He's acting on his emotions. Yes, he does come up with a plan. He doesn't go in there rushing in. However, he's kind of contradicting what he said. He said in the previous chapter he would never do anything that foolish. And here he is, he's doing the same thing. He's acting on his emotions. So I found it very interesting that he went back on his word there. Okay, Ashitaro tells the soldiers, the foot soldiers, the Yaminobu, that he is one of the sword fools, one of the sword idiots. Technically the three idiots. He calls them the three idiots. So Sanosuke always calls Ashitaro, Aran, and Asahi the three idiots. Kind of like the Three Stooges, but it's just another way of saying. The three fools, the three idiots, that's his nickname for them. Well, Ashitaro actually says this to the soldiers. He says, I'm one of the three idiots. Ashitaro Hasegawa. So I found that really awesome that, Ashitaro has accepted this nickname of Sanosuke. Because we've never seen it before. Usually that's just Sanosuke speaking, but here Ashitaro is actually speaking it. So that was really cool. Okay, the next thing. Stealing the weapons was a decent plan, okay? I will admit, he came up with a good plan, a decoy, infiltrate from behind, find the weapons, they get rifles. However, Konryu says, I'm not really well versed in guns, I mean, I did sell Gatling guns and stuff like that, but this is a rifle. And then Aran standing there, I've never fired a gun in my life. And he turns to him and he's like, just pretend to be imposing. I'm like, what? You're holding a rifle to one of the Kenkakuheki and you tell your number one disciple, pretend to be imposing. Yeah, pretend that you know what you're doing. That is a good idea. This is where the foolishness comes from. He didn't consider that, doing this without some sort of, experience would come back to haunt him. And that's where Honda shows up, right? Honda, one of the members of the Kenkakuheki. He is shown with a book, okay? And I'm going to use this as an example, a book, right? He's got a book in his hand. And what's interesting about this is that there's a shuriken that's in the middle of it. Okay, this is not a real shuriken. I got this in Kyoto. There is a museum for ninja and samurai, and I did a kind of like an experience of being a ninja and being a samurai. So you get to hold a real samurai sword, you get to hold real shuriken throwing knives, and you get to actually act it out, actually doing the different, attacks using their different weapons. Now this is just, kind of like a prop weapon, but I mean, it's not like a real shuriken. But anyways, I got this as a gift. They gave them to us for the experience, so that was pretty cool. Anyways, this is what it was. It was a shuriken on the book. And what's interesting about this is a clue to his power. The shuriken. Now, shuriken sounds like shuriken, right? Shuriken sounds like shuriken, right? Shuriken, sho means book, like writing, right? Shuriken is like a hand blade, a hidden hand blade. That's basically what it means. So what it means, it's like hidden writing blade. So basically his blade is writing. So that's how he attacks, using his book. But I found that interesting that you can actually see the shuriken on the book. That's pretty cool. Okay, the next thing I noticed is that it is blank. So when he's writing in his book, it's all blank, right? But when he writes, automatically there's papers that fly out. And you see them in the chapter. He's starting to write, and you see all these papers just floating in the air. And suddenly, it's like they disappear. They get smaller and smaller, and then they fly out. And then Konryu gets, struck by them. It's almost like they attack invisibly, and then suddenly when he's cut, it's visible, So we see the papers first, and then when they attack, they get smaller and smaller, like they're daggers, and then they attack. So I found that really interesting, that it's actually a blade, but actually he's using the papers to cut him. How do you explain that? I don't know, but I found it very interesting. It's different. That's something the Kenkakuheki's always been about. They're very different. Anyways, pretty cool. Okay, Honda points out that there are there are many different Kenkakuheki members. There are different types of them, right? Their powers are different. Their strategies are different. One of them is that they're front lines on the battlefield. They're just straight up fighting up in your face, right? For example, you got Byakuya, one of the most badass Kenkakuheki members. When he fought Saito, you guys remember Saito, he basically destroyed Saito, right? Right up front, that's pretty much how he is. He also fought Kenshin. He pretty much is right up front about everything. However, if you remember Doi, the rock man, he always fought from beneath, right? So he's more of an infiltrator, an ambusher. So those are two types. Fighting on the front lines, ambushing from behind, or necessarily long range fighting. And then he says he's neither. Honda's neither. There's one that is behind the scenes that acts like he's the mastermind. He's the author. And this is Honda. And we see his face. He's got glasses on. He's a pretty cool looking member of Kenkakuheki. He's pretty out there, but I like it. I like how his design is. I like how passionate he is. I kind of thought he was going to be kind of silent, but I do like how, they're developing him a little more. So that would mean that he's kind of the author the author of everything, kind of acting as if he's the one doing everything behind the scenes when actually he's just, acting it out, in his book. So I found that kind of interesting. Because we all know Shimonji is his, general, his, commander. Okay, next thing. We go to the next front. Kenshin seems to be out of breath. So he's used this Hiten Mitsurugi style. He's just out of breath. He needs some help, right? He needs some help. So someone catches him, right? He's falling. Someone catches him and he's like, this one is most grateful. And he's like, no, you helped my wife and child. The thanks that should be my line, Thank you so much. And we see this smile on his face. Now, I'm going to use volume 22 to share what that smile looks like. So this is actually in the Cherry Blossoms in Springtime chapter at the very end. Kenshin smiles about Sanosuke on his travels. So he learns that Sanosuke gave a letter and he smiles. This is the same kind of smile he gives off. So what I'm thinking here is he's definitely thinking about his own family. He's thinking about Kaoru and Kenji. That's my feeling on this, just looking at his genuine smile. Okay, the next thing. Let's see. Moving on. Sano. We go on to Sano. So this is the very interesting part of the chapter. So Sanosuke says he has one last Futai no Kiwami, and we all have been waiting for it, right? We all think it's some badass Futai no Kiwami that's even stronger than he's shown before. And Ono says, why don't you join the Kenkakuheki? Yes, okay. Sano says he has one last Futai no Kiwami. He wants to fight, but Ono seems like he doesn't. In fact, he acknowledges him. He says, you are strong, Sanosuke Sagara. I recommend you to be a general. A general. Just like Shimonji. I recommend you. You're strong enough to be a general. If you join us in the Kenkakuheki. Okay, so here I'm thinking one of two things. Sanosuke wants to fight, right? Ono doesn't seem like it. Does this mean that Ono used his best attack and it didn't work? Okay, it didn't work. It didn't kill him. It was supposed to kill him. It's supposed to be a death blow. But is it possible that Ono is seeing that Sanosuke's will is stronger than his? His will to live, his will to fight is stronger than his, and he's kind of trying to back out of it by using this, tactic of let's join. Of course, he's supposed to, recruit people, but is it really a tactic because he doesn't have anything stronger than the axe blade? That's what I'm thinking, the axe fist. So, another thing, the next thing, Sano mentions the axe fist, which is interesting because if you recall, the one that was talking when Sano was down was actually Asahi. So that would mean Sanosuke doesn't know about the axe fist, right? Because he's knocked out. He was knocked out. Not only does he mention the axe fist, he also mentions brilliant strength, the brilliance, the power of, inside the bloodstream that they cultivate as their clan, that they are born with, supposedly, that makes them more powerful than other warriors. The Kenkakuheki's original clan, the brilliant strength. He mentions this. He says, I don't want to learn. Do I have to learn that if I join the Kenkakuheki? How does he know about brilliant strength? He said to Ono that I didn't hear a word you were saying for a long time. I've been out. And that's when we learn that Asahi is the one talking, imitating his voice. So if he knows, he was playing dead. He was playing dead. So he was knocked out, but he awoke and was listening in on everything. So that could mean that Asahi and Sano both were in on it. They were using a strategy to get information out of the enemy. And it's brilliant. That's brilliant. That's brilliant. So I found that very interesting. So how did he know if he was knocked out? He was playing dead. He really was playing dead. So it wasn't just Asahi saying that, he really was doing that. And I wondered about that in the last discussion. So, okay, now, Ono mentions that there are 3 outsiders, and this goes back to Sanosuke joining the Kenkakuheki. There are 3 outsiders that were not born within the true clan of Kenkakuheki. One of them is the member of Kenkakuheki that has a scar under his eye. He's also a member of Byakuya's group. He's also a member that mentions Hajime Saito. It's that guy. That guy is an outsider. And that would make sense because he said Hajime Saito. Obviously, these guys have been away from, humanity. They've been underground all this time, away from everyone else. So, but that's very interesting. So now we know he's an outsider. But who is he? Who is he? That's going to be a good discussion question. Who is he? And who are the other 2? Because there's 3 of them. There's 3 fierce men, 4 fierce warriors that were brought into the Kenkakuheki. Who are they? Who are they, right? Okay, the last thing. Sano and Ono share a hatred for the Meiji government. And this is another reason why he wants to recruit him. He shares hatred for the Meiji government, and they're both really strong. That's why he wants to recruit him. But I think there's another hidden agenda that he cannot defeat Sano in this battle. And that is why he's come to the decision to join. If you can't beat him, why not join him? But in this case, it's the other way around. I think Sano is actually more stronger than Ono. That's my personal opinion. But what do you guys think? That's pretty much everything I noticed in this chapter. And at the very, very end of it, we saw a glimpse of that despicable memory of Captain Sagara's head being severed. And we see that look on Sanosuke's face. So that was a really crazy thing because Ono is like, I'm sure you can work with us. What is Sano going to do? What is he going to do? Especially after seeing, remembering that image of Captain Sagara, I think that he's going to decline, but I like the idea of having a twist there. That's very interesting. So anyways, it's been a great chapter. There was a little disappointment, there's no Saito, but I do like the interesting twist at the end. That's what Watsuki and his wife do very well. They do kind of focus more on certain characters, but then they keep it interesting. They give us something like, wow. And that ending was a wow. So anyways, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. Discussion will be coming next week. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one.